So far this year in 2023, the Detroit Lions have played in a lot of high marquee primetime matchups, but none could probably be more as important as the one they're about to play today. We're going to talk about it in today's episode, folks, so stay tuned.
We used to be a team no one respected. We used to be a team no one feared. That was then. This is now.
First victory of the year on the line. Goff's got it. Back, looks, throws, end zone. Yes! Caught!
You know who we are.
10, 5, end zone, touchdown Detroit Lions!
And you know where to find us. We won't be far. We'll be on your front porch waiting for you. We are the New Era Lions. And
we are driven by Detroit.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. I'm your host, David T. Pike, and we're diving in right now. As always, to those that are coming back to the show, I just want to express again my thanks for your loyalty. Thank you all for coming back. Thank you all for your view, your support, your patronage. It means the world to me that I have such loyal subscribers and fans. And to those that are tuning into my show for the very first time, again, I want to say thank you all for giving my show a shot. I hope you all enjoy the content, but even more so, I hope to gain you as a subscriber, if I've earned and deserved it. And with that, to everybody, I just want to say, hope you all had a Merry Christmas. Hope you're all about to have a Happy New Year. And with that, God bless. Let's dive into the content. So, here's the thing, folks. When we take a look at this game that the Lions have got coming up, this game tonight, because I'm recording this at Saturday, tonight, when we play Dallas, in Dallas, prime time, Saturday night, this might very well be, like the thumbnail image says, the game of the year for the Lions. Because you got to think about it here. Seriously, think about it. This game has got a lot of stuff riding on it. This is a game that has a huge amount of implications to it that could really make some things happen for the Lions that we have not seen in a while. But you have to think about it from another perspective here. This game could probably change the perception of the Detroit Lions even more so, even further than what's already happened this year. Because you have to think about it here. Like, seriously stop, think about it for just a half a second here and think about this. The Detroit Lions are a franchise that, if we realistically want to be fair, have not really had a whole lot of franchise-defining moments over the last 30 years. Or, well, I should say it, positive ones. We've not had a whole lot of positive franchise-defining moments over the last 30 years. We've had plenty of negative ones, but that's not why I'm talking about that. If you think about it, this game that we've got coming up against the Dallas Cowboys, imagine, if you will, for the last 20-something years that we've been playing football, so 29, since we just became division champions this year, the best way I can describe it is this. Again, everyone knows that I'm a Christian. Everyone knows that I'm very biblical. But think about this. I almost kind of equate the Lions and their fans much kind of like being the Israelites in the Old Testament who've been kind of wandering around in the desert for the last 40 years trying to get to the promised land. Well, imagine, if you will, the desert is the NFL, and we've been looking to get to that promised land. We've been looking to become relevant. We've been looking to be called champions, division champions, Super Bowl champions, conference champions, whatever term you'd like to use. We've been looking for that. We have been looking to stop wandering around and being that team that nobody ever wants to play for unless they're coming to make money or to retire here. And I would say this. Ever since Dan Campbell got here, ever since this New Era Lions mindset, brand new Lions mindset got into town, that ideology has really started to go away. But again, some things, like the saying goes, some old habits die hard. When it comes to the Detroit Lions, there are still people out there, still prominent people and players that just look at the Lions and they're like, listen, they might be doing good right now, but we don't know if this is going to sustain itself for long term. Case in point, I know some people saw this a couple of days ago. I know a couple of fans of mine have even brought it up to me as something to talk about. The comments that Larry Fitzgerald made about the Detroit Lions, about how he's like, yeah, I can't really get excited about the Lions because, well, they're the Lions. Great that they're doing well. Great that they won a division championship. But that was what he said. And I know a lot of Lions fans, they got royally peeved with that comment. They absolutely wanted to rip Larry Fitzgerald a new one. But it's just like, listen, that is that stigma, that is that long-standing ideology that the Lions have had to fight against. And I'll say this, ever since Campbell, Goff, Holmes, the whole New Era Lions mindset got started, it's really been able to fight that back. But again, like I said, old habits die hard. But if you take a look at this game that the Lions have got coming up against Dallas, this is the game where the Lions are literally, in my opinion, they're like right on the precipice. They are at the moment where they could see the glimpse to the end of their wandering, because when you think about it, it's like, listen, you win that division championship and everybody's ecstatic that the Lions won it, because it's like, listen, they finally won a division championship after 30 freaking years. And it's like, listen, as Dan Campbell said, that's just the beginning. That's just the start of what we're planning on doing. That's just the start of what we're after. And while the division championship is awesome, and I am not taking anything away from that, because I was so freaking over the moon when we won that division championship, and it does go a long way for not only the Lions players and organization and their fans in the NFL. Like I'm trying to say here, the Lions can take it even farther to dispel that SOL mindset that some fans have, that players have, that, you know, that NFL analysts and NFL players have against the Lions. Because think about it here. This game that we have against Dallas, if the Lions go into Dallas, and this could very well be the game that the Lions can rewrite that whole script that I'm talking about. Not only will it completely rewrite the history of the Lions for like the last 20, 30 years, it could rewrite further what's going on in this season and kind of rewrite the script going into the future. Think about that. That's how big, that's how massive this game is for the Lions against the Cowboys. And I'm not trying to put more pressure than what is necessarily due for this game, but this game's big. This is a game where the Lions could really step out on center stage and say, okay, yeah, we are a team that is elite in the NFL, because there's a lot of things about this game, if the Lions go into Dallas and win, that will instantaneously change for the Lions if they win. Just think about this for a moment, folks. The first thing that I would say that would change, the first thing that I would say would absolutely happen for a lot of Lions fans and the Lions organization, first and foremost, it would exercise some demons. Now, what do I mean by that? I already know some people already know the whole thing, the whole bit with Dallas from 2014. Because again, let's think about this. The last time that the Lions actually beat Dallas was in 2013. I actually had to look that up because it's been a while. But if you think about it, the last time even further past that the Lions actually went to Dallas and beat Dallas in Dallas was in 2011. It's been quite a hot minute since we've gone down to Dallas and beat the Cowboys in their home stadium, beat them in Jerry World. And if you think about it, that game in 2014, the wild card game where we went to the Cowboys' home stadium and we lost there, that is a game that still haunts the Lions faithful, because they are forever not going to let go of that freaking bad call by the refs for not calling that pass interference on the linebacker that was covering Brandon Pettigrew. It should have been called. The NFL knew it should have been called, but they didn't call it, and that was one of the big reasons why the Lions wound up losing that game, along with a bunch of other host reasons, such as Stafford's turnovers, bad play calling, whatever term you'd like to use. Those were all reasons why the Lions lost that game. So if the Lions go down to Dallas and they beat the Cowboys in primetime in Dallas, that would go a long way to exercising those demons. That would go a long way to being like, okay, we're past that nonsense. We finally got our quote-unquote revenge. So that's point number one. Point number two, like I kind of hinted about a moment or two ago, if the Lions go to the Cowboys' home stadium, while the Cowboys are guaranteed to go to the playoffs. They've already locked up a playoff spot. But if they go to Dallas and they beat the Cowboys down there, it would show that the Lions are elite. Because you got to think about this here. What are considered the top teams in the NFL right now? Most players, most fans, most NFL executives would say the top NFL teams are the 49ers, the Ravens, the Chiefs, the Eagles, the Dolphins, and the Cowboys. Those would be considered your top echelon teams. But when you talk about the Lions, most people would say that the Lions are a really good team that's just outside of that elite category. Like, they're not there yet, but they're almost there. Like, they are literally like tinkering with the idea. But if you go into Dallas and you beat the Cowboys in prime time, when this is like, listen, you got a shot here for the number 2 seed, you got a shot to really show your dominance in the NFL, that right there would instantly catapult the Lions into the elite category. Because it's like, listen, Dallas is no slouch of a team. Say what you want about the Cowboys, call them the Cowgirls, call them all those other names that they are, but If you go into Dallas and you beat the Cowboys on primetime, that instantly catapults the Lions into the elite team category. No debate on that. No conversation. Because that right there would vastly change the perception about the Lions. Because it's like, listen, earlier this year, you go into Arrowhead. You go play the defending Super Bowl champions. You beat the Chiefs 21-20 to start the very first game of the year. You do that. You go to Lambeau in your third week of the year, and you go into that home stadium, a very hostile home stadium in its own right, and you beat the Packers. At that point, you're showing that the Lions are not just a homebody team like a lot of people are saying about the Cowboys right now. You're also the ability to go into hostile environments, and you're able to beat some of the most difficult teams in their home environment. The Chiefs, the Packers, and if you do it against the Cowboys, it's like, listen, at that point, you've proven you're an elite team, because if you can win on the road in hostile environments just as easily as you can win in the home environment, you're doing something right. So again, that's another big thing that could happen for the Lions if they win in Dallas tonight. And the third thing, in my honest opinion, is that if the Lions win this game against the Cowboys, it can show that the Lions can make waves in the postseason. Again, kind of piggybacking off that second theory, that second point I put out there, Dallas is a playoff team. They're locked to go to the playoff, just like how the Lions are locked for the postseason and are also in a playoff game. But if you think about it, if the Lions can beat Dallas in their home stadium, it would also solidify the thought that the Lions could be able to be a force to be reckoned with in the postseason. Because here's the thing, the Lions are already guaranteed one home playoff game because they're the locked-in number 3 seed. So let's just play the hypothetical game here. If the Lions, in theory, go into Dallas and win that game, that's a playoff game right there. Think about that. That's a playoff game. If they go into Dallas and win that game, that would show that, okay, even if they win their wild card game and then they have to travel on the road to somebody else's stadium, don't count out the Lions. They can go into primetime games, playoff games, and they can still play with the best of them. That's what I'm talking about. It would show that if the Lions can do that in Dallas, they can do it anywhere. They could do it with the freaking 49ers. They could do it with the Philadelphia Eagles. They could do it with anybody because Dallas is no slouch. Again, I'm trying to put this out there. I'm not trying to tout the Cowboys up super, super high, but it's like, listen, the Cowboys are not a slouch team. I know that they lost their last 2 games, but it's like, listen, do not sleep on them. Do not sleep on them for a minute. I know the Lions players aren't. I know Dan Campbell is not. Do not sleep on the Cowboys. If the Lions go into Dallas and they beat them, a lot of perceptions are going to change about them. Mark it down, write it in stone. If it happens, the Lions are instantaneously going to become a Super Bowl favorite overnight. I'm willing to go that far. If you can beat Dallas in Dallas, you will go from being a team that could probably win 1 or 2 games in the playoffs to being, okay, now you're a Super Bowl contender. Because you have to think about all the other stuff that's kind of led up to this point. The Lions have played 5 primetime games this year. They are 4-1 in those primetime games. And 2 of those victories, like I said, were on the road in Green Bay and Kansas City. If you win another primetime game in Dallas just before the postseason, that is going to rewrite a whole lot of perceptions. That's going to change a whole lot of minds about what the Lions could do in the postseason. Trust me, I'm speaking the truth. Now, taking all that aside, I know that when you're talking about Dallas, you're talking about the Cowboys, they are not just going to hand this game to the Lions. It's not going to happen. I guarantee you this. The Cowboys, they're mad. They're mad that they've lost the last 2 games. They're going to be, like Dan Campbell said, they're going to give us their best shot. And when you think about it, Dallas is playing, even though they've had 2 bad games where they've lost, because they should have won the game against the Miami Dolphins. They should have won that game. But, c'est la vie, they lost it. But if you think about it, Dallas is still playing at a very high level. Take a look at these stats as I put them up on the board. I'm going to take a look at both the Dallas Cowboys offense and defense. Take a look at their offense. Their offense is playing at an extremely high level. It's number 2 in points. It's number 2 in first downs. It's one of the top passing offenses. Rushing offense is a little bit outside top 10, but again, still a really good rushing offense. They're really good in converting on 3rd down, 4th down. They're a little less in the red zone, but they have a really high scoring drive percentage. Again, it's a really, really good offense. That's what Dallas has been able to do. They have the ability to score points and they have the ability to convert on downs. That's what they do really well. The other thing, though, I will say this is one stat that really popped out to me is Dallas is notorious for getting penalties on their offense. They are damn near the bottom in terms of penalties given up. So that might be something the Lions might be able to exploit with the Cowboys. They could cause them to have mental errors, which will help the Lions win the game because the more penalties a team gets called for, the much more difficult it is for that team to win. Kind of like turnovers. That was the Cowboys' offense. When you take a look at the Cowboys' defense, again, much like their offense, really, really good. Again, points-wise, they don't give up a lot of points. Passing yards, they're one of the best passing defenses in the NFL. But this is where a lot of Lions fans are saying the Lions need to go after. Their rush defense is nowhere near as good as the rest of their defense. It is absolutely atrocious if we want to talk about a comparative analysis here. They're 19th in rush yards given up, they're tied 15th in rush average, and they're 21st in the amount of first downs they give up on the ground. Pretty much, if I'm the Lions, and most Lions fans have said this, you need to run the ever-living hell out of the ball against the Cowboys. Run, and run some more. You should be passing the ball only as necessary or in obvious play action scenarios. Otherwise, running the ball is going to be your best bet. Now, I'm going to say this. A lot of Lions fans also said that similar strategy about the Denver Broncos game. And what did the Lions do in that game? They came out firing deep and they were going all over Denver. I'm not saying that's what the Lions are going to do in this game against Dallas, but it's kind of one of those where it's like, I wonder how the Lions are going to try and attack Dallas tonight. Just curious. Now, I could go into the Lions stats, and I will for a little bit, but here's pretty much the basic bottom line. When you take a look at the Lions stats on offense, again, pretty much the same as it's been all year. They're very explosive, they're very balanced, they're not going to outplay themselves. Like, it's hard to. They're 5th in points that they've scored. They're the number 1 passing first down offense. They're a top 5 passing offense. They're a top 3 rushing offense. They're great on third down conversions. They're great in the red zone. They score on a lot of their drives. They get a lot of explosive plays. Again, this is an offense, much like the Dallas offense, that is explosive and it's able to get points. The only difference between our offense and the Cowboys offense is ours is way more balanced. The Cowboys offense is a heavy pass offense. The Lions offense is very, very balanced, which helps us out going into Dallas. Then when you take a look at the Lions defense, again, I'm not trying to dog on the defense, but we got to be fair and honest here. The Lions defense this year has just not been good. It's been subpar, mediocre at best. And again, the stats show that out. Again, points given up, we're not very good. Passing yards given up, we're not very good. The only thing about our defense that's really good is we can stop the run all day long. We've been one of the best rushing defenses throughout the entirety of the year. So for me, if the Lions want to win the game tonight, since we know Dallas loves throwing the ball as much, they have got to do something to stop the likes of Jake Ferguson, CeeDee Lamb, and Brandon Cooks. They've got to stop those guys. Otherwise, Dak Prescott's going to tear us apart. So we have got to lock down in the passing game. So those are all the stats and comparative analysis between the Cowboys and the Lions. Now, I know this for a fact. Again, I've seen it from some of my fans. Stats aside, some people don't really care for stats. Some people don't really care for that nonsense. Most people are going to point out, like I said earlier, the fact that the Cowboys have a perfect record at home. And to add further insult to injury, anytime that the Cowboys have been at home, they've scored damn near 40 points on average at home. I think it's like 39.85 points on average they score at home. And they just dominate teams at home. That's what a lot of Lions fans are somewhat worried about. That's what a lot of NFL analysts are pointing out as reasons as to why they think the Lions can't win, because the Cowboys are just a different team at home. When they go on the road, they're not the same team as when they're at home. But I'm going to say this right now. Just because the Cowboys haven't been beat at home does not mean that they can't be beat at home. Again, you have to think about this. Like I've been saying with the stats and up until this point, the NFL has provided the Lions with a blueprint about how to beat Dallas. Think about this. The Cowboys have lost 5 games this year. I took a look at all 5 of those games. In 4 of those games, the Cowboys gave up 100 yards rushing. In 3 of those games, they gave up 150 plus yards rushing. And in 2 of them, over 200 yards rushing. Again, the point of the matter, like I said a few minutes ago, run, pound the damn rock. That's how you beat Dallas, because their defense is just not that good at stopping the running component as they are with the passing component. Now, I also know if a Dallas fan happens to watch this, you're going to be like, well, David, you ought to know that in games that we've won, we've had teams that have rushed over 100 on us, so that's not true. Okay, that's fair. I took a look at those stats too. In the games against the Giants both got 100 yards rushing on Dallas. In the game against the Panthers, they got over 100 yards. Same with the Commanders and the Eagles. But I also found out why those games were wins for Dallas just because of this. Regardless of the rushing component, take a look and go back at all those games. In the Giants' first game that they played, so the very first game of the year for Dallas, the Giants turned the ball over 3 times and the Cowboys got 2 defensive touchdowns. Chances are you're going to win a game like that. Take a look at the other Giants game. The Giants were 0 for 12 on third down. They couldn't convert on third down, which meant they were punting the ball all the damn time. They had no passing production, and on top of that right there, the Giants just have not been good this year. So again, go figure. You then take a look at the Panthers. Much the same way with the second Giants game. Couldn't convert on third down, had 2 turnovers, and again, one of those turnovers was for a defensive touchdown. You take a look at the Commanders game. That was just a bad defense. Like, the Commanders defense just got absolutely manhandled by the freaking Cowboys. But at the same time, the Commanders went for it on 4th down 3 times, failed it all 3 times. So rather than punting the ball, they tried to go for it on downs and distance and gave the Cowboys shortened field. So again, that doesn't help. Then you take a look at the Eagles. The Eagles, the reason they lost was because of penalties and turnovers. So again, how do you beat Dallas? It comes down to 2 main things. You've got to run the ball really well, and you cannot turn the ball over. Pretty much the Lions are going to have to play a clean game, which is exactly what they did against the Broncos, which is exactly what they did against the Vikings. You have to play clean, you have to run the ball, you have to play the Lions type of game, which is run the ball, pass the ball on play action and when it's necessary, but keep Dak and that offense off the field at all times and protect the ball at all costs, which is something that we've seen the Lions do especially well over the last 2 to 3 weeks. So for me, it's like, listen, the Lions can win this game. Regardless of what Cowboys fans are saying, regardless of what NFL analysts are saying, the Lions can win this game, and like I've said earlier in the beginning of this episode, if they do, watch overnight how the entire perception of the Lions is going to completely rewrite itself. It's going to completely change. That's my whole point with this episode. The Lions can win this game against Dallas, and if they do, everything's going to change. Write it down. But anyway, with that having been said, I think I've done a pretty good job of explaining my thought process, explaining what I'm thinking here, so I'm just going to say thank you all for watching another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. If you like what you saw, by all means, I highly encourage all to watch the next episode that I got coming out after this one, and I also encourage all to tune into my live stream tonight because I'm going to be streaming the game all the way up from the beginning of kickoff until the end of the game. We won't do the post-game show until tomorrow, but again, I'm hopeful that you guys will show up for that game. Also, I encourage y'all to please do this. If you subscribed in the past, you've got to do so at the time, or you just subscribed and you've not had a chance to do so. Again, please subscribe. It helps me out, and I'm thankful for every subscription that I can get. But also make sure you also turn on that bell notification icon as well, so that way you never miss any more content that I push out. To also help in that endeavor, I encourage y'all to share this content with your Lions friends and family members. Share here on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, anywhere and everywhere you can. The more we share it, the more people we get into the show, the more the show grows, so that way we can continue to have great conversations about the Lions and football in general. But with that having been said, I just want to say to everybody, thank you all once again for watching the content. Thank you all for your view. Hopefully I gained you as a subscriber, and if I did, I'm ever so thankful for you all. If I still haven't gained you as a subscriber, hopefully you'll come on back. I'll get another chance to do so. But until later tonight, and until the next time we meet, I just want to say God bless. Again, hope you all had a Merry Christmas. Hope you all have a Happy New Year. And until the next time we meet, I'll see you all in the next episode.